All right, we're here on this beautiful Saturday or Sunday. I'm sorry, I'm a little behind, not unusual. Sunday, the 7th of July, or for some people, still on their beautiful 4th of July weekend.
Okay, so we're not
Thanks for
on
joining.
camera yet.
What?
She said
Marianne.
we're not on camera yet.
We're watching for you, Mary. So I'm still getting my pendulum threaded with my dental floss because I use dental floss because it's so lightweight and strong. And just a little plastic thing, because if you have to hold this thing up for a long time, you don't want a heavy pendulum. My
I
advice
should
to
do
you.
that because mine's just a chain. It just came like this. Maybe I should try the dental floss.
I don't know what kind of string you got on it. Is it a chain?
It's yeah, it's like a chain that came with it. It seems
Is
to
it
work
light? If it
pretty
works, let
light.
me see. Let me
Yeah.
see what pendulum you got there.
It's I think it's a rose quartz. It looks like a rose quartz.
Can't see it.
Trying to see if I can.
Move it
Ooh,
over up in front of the
there we
camera.
go.
Oh,
There we
okay.
go.
Is it? Turn it sideways. Is it round? Oh, okay. Yeah, that'll work.
It seems to work okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
As long as it's kind of, if you do make a pendulum, I use this. This works really good. It's just a little crystal, but you want something that's balanced all the way around and has a point on it. I've tried it with other things, doesn't work as good. Hard, hard for them to manipulate it. And the lighter it is, the easier it is for them to move it too.
That's so
Is that
smart.
yours, Kate?
Huh? I don't
Is
know.
that
How's it work
yours?
for you, Wendy?
It works.
Wendy?
It
Winnie.
works because it doesn't, I mean, it doesn't write. I would like to know how to use it so it writes, but it just answers yes and no.
Okay. Well, if it's light enough and I guess you can try. The thing I would say is try different things. Like I say, I got a whole box of these little babies, some bigger that I can't use, but enough of these little ones for like $8.99 at Hobby Lobby. I think it was even on sale for 20% off or something.
It's mine.
You got
It's
that
on a
one?
chain.
Let me hold yours up closer so we can see the pendulum. Oh, that looks pretty nice. Is it pretty light?
It works.
Good, good. Supposedly the crystal is also good because it allows the light to affect it. Okay, but I don't know. It's just what I use, and it's what I had one before that I used that I just happened to have with a little gold filigree on the top, and I loved it, and they loved it too. But
I
then I
picked up,
had two of them and I lost them. I can't find the same one exactly.
I went to right after I had changed my point of view on in 2018 is when I changed my point of view on religion and life. And I hadn't really left religion completely, but I was visiting like the rock shops and stuff and learning more about stones and crystals. And I didn't know what it was. I just liked that rock for personal reasons. And I bought a pendulum and I was just looking for rocks that I liked. And so with this journey later, I was like, whoa, I bought a pendulum. I bought that for a reason. But I do feel like I'm supposed to share my journey a bit. And so that's what I'm coming in today for. But I'm here to stay. And I might not make it to all sessions because, I have a busy lifestyle too. And I'm busy working on these projects related to this. So I'm here on this Sunday. I might not make it every Sunday, but I'm here and I'm staying. And so if I'm missing an action on these videos, it's not because I'm not staying, because I'm here and I'm committed. And the reason why is because I was guided here. And like I said, in 2018, I completely changed my point of view on everything. And it led to a lot of ups and downs. And I get emotional, so freaking much emotional. But anyway, um, And, when you're in your downs, you can feel really, really lonely because you're trying to, but yet the ups were like, I was on this new discoveries, new exciting things, but yet a lot of people didn't understand a lot of reasons I changing the way I was. So basically, when I'll just repeat when you're on this journey of like finding a new point of view after being done in one point of view all your life because it's what was familiar, what you were, what you knew, you can find a really lonely place because you're still not knowing quite what your point of view is. And so if that makes sense. But so at that, some of my lowest spots on my emotions, I had been familiar with people's, experience with near-death experiences and stuff. And I've learned a lot and I did that always. I always was fascinated by that, fascinated with the shows that had mediums reading, people's, going, and reading people and telling them about connections with people on the other side. There's a lot of Hollywood shows like that. And so I've always been fascinated with that. But I was being with following all that stuff, I was familiar with a lot of things such as like um, spirit guides and synchronicities, like the concept of it. Not that I'd had any experiences with it, but what I was saying was when I was at a low point in my life, I just flat out asked for my spirit guide to help me. And that was in 2022. So it's not been that long. But then I was still, trying to figure out, what's my point of view. And I was starting to get the synchronicities, and things were starting to open up for me where I started to hear things. And I didn't understand it at first, but on my low parts, I would hear some other types of chatter, but I also would hear messages of that was helping me. And I knew that that was what I needed to pay attention to. And so those messages and synchronies led me to this Circle of Love videos and the books that they put out. And I read them and I started learning more about the nature of God energy, because also after I asked for my spirit guides to help me, that's when I started feeling the energies. That's when things started opening up. That's when I was able to hear more. This connections is very important for us to learn about and understand. And so just hearing other people's points of view on their experiences has helped me so much. And so now things get clearer. It didn't come clear at first, but things are clearer now. And so I didn't have any like huge experiences that led me here, but it was just being simple and open. And I didn't go and I learned so much from near-death experiences, but I didn't have my own near-death experience. I just wanted to say this because it's possible for everybody to connect like this and to be guided in your heart and personally. And so anyway, one of the messages I was given was about connection and I wrote this down because when you hear these things that are from a divine source, it's a good thing to get a journal out and write them down because it helps you sort out stuff. But this is one of the things I wrote down. It says, a connection is a good thing. Feelings can be sorted out. A connection is a new love for self, and that's something I definitely need to learn, new love for myself. A connection is giving life to God. And so all of that just relates to everything I've learned in this group. And so I just thought it was time that I say that I'm here and this is what led me here. So there's that. So I hope that helps somebody. I hope that made sense. So anyway,
Thank you. Thank you, Paige, for sharing that. What do the
you're
rest of you
welcome.
have to say?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good words.
Thank you.
Very good words. Thank you for sharing that.
Thanks.
And I'm really glad to have you along with me, Paige. Are such a stalwart figure in my life right now.
I'm here.
And so talented. Oh my God, you are talented. It just amazes me how much talent you have. And others too in this group. And so just it's a very talented group. There's a lot of experience in common. So anyway, I'm really happy that you shared that, and I'm happy you're here.
Well, things I
Anyone else
learned
want
helped me get that. Like, there's that book that you put out with the help of the circle, A Happy Heart, and so that really does sum it up. Is I mean, I still get emotional, so I have my moments, but I just learned recently that you can just say called doing sad, and that actually does help you get past the sadness if you say I'm doing sad. But I tell you, I think on it, and there's so much more happy moments and joyfulness of the fascinating experiences that you go through. That's just, I mean, a lot to be thankful for. So
Yeah. And I don't, the people that are listening to this don't realize how much is going on behind the scenes. There's a
synchronies,
lot
so
of
many
synchronicity.
synchronies. That's it. I cannot deny the synchronies. I can't. Even from like years and years ago stuff. I mean, I went to my garage, found an old poem that related to a lot of things that I went through that led me to this. So just stuff, it's fascinating. Kind of blows my mind, and I don't understand it all, but I'm okay with it.
It's fun. It's in the end,
Yeah,
it's fun, right? Every time you come
right,
across one of those synchronicities, you're like,
right.
oh,
So there's that.
yeah, thanks. Well, anybody else have thoughts that they want to share?
I do.
Anything? You do?
I do, yes. I appreciate this group because it's reminding me of where God is. And many times when I think of God, I want to put him up there in the sky. But now, when I think of things that I really need or want, I ask myself, I said, but wait a minute now, you have to talk to God. And I said, but where is God? He said, well, just sit quietly and look around, you'll find him. Immediately when I make that decision and I start looking around, just looking around and everything where I am, I feel that appreciation and joy. And I said, yes, God is here. God is here. Thank you, God. I appreciate this group. Thank you all.
Thank you, Winnie. You know, I was thinking about what you're saying, Paige. You know, when I learned to do that and say, I'm doing sad today, or I'm doing anger, or whatever it is that I'm doing today, people get it. If you say I'm sad, they're like, oh my God, we got to try and cheer you up. We got to try and do this. Or got to get away from you, whatever it is. But if you say, I'm doing sad right now, thank you, it's like, okay, we can wait. Or roll with the punches, however you want us to. We know that you're not sadness. When you say I am sad, it's like you've taken on sadness, and that's who you are.
It does help. So
Any other thoughts anybody wants to share? Well, we're all gathered here, and it's open.
Y'all know my story already.
Yes, you
All right.
did.
I already told that long story,
That was a
but
great
I'm here
story
too.
too.
But I'm here too. This is where it got me, and this is where I
We've been
am.
having fun. Okay, well,
Yeah.
let's see if anybody from Heaven Side wants to be heard, which somebody always does, of course. Reimann would like to be heard, Steph. Okay. Do we know who Reimann is? Bernhard Reimann? was a 19th century well-known mathematician, and he's been around a lot lately. Just talked to him for an hour and some this morning and an hour and a half last night. And he was also what is known as the Midas King. His name was actually Midas. That was his name. And he was a king of this group on a small island. He inherited it. And he didn't want to be a king. He wanted to be a mathematician. He was like, I don't want to be a king. And he got convinced to go ahead and take on that role. And he is the one who turned his kingdom into a really rich kingdom because he taught them about the loaves and fishes idea. The need to move the energy quickly. The more quickly you move it, you take that dollar bill. Mr. Reimann, I don't know if I'm telling your story right, but it is the way I understand it. The more times you share that dollar bill during the day, the more it's worth. You put it in the bank, it's worth $1. If it changes hands 12 times during the day, it's worth $12. So he understood this and he got his people pretty well rich. And in the end, of course, other people came and tried to take over because they wanted their money, as people get, like, that. And but that's where the name Midas comes from, that everything he touched would turn to gold. Right, Mr. Reimann? That is correct, Stephanie. And I was also the one who understood the connection of humanity to the stars, right? Yes. So back in the, quick reiterate his history. Back in the times of the Anunnaki, it was his job to keep the times basically for everybody and everything, and make sure everybody was where they needed to be on time and everything. And he had a lot of time to study the stars. And so he became one of the earliest astronomers. And of course, you probably got in, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you probably got information from the Anunnaki and from the Elohim, etc. Or you were one of the Elohim, so you already had that history. And he actually is the father of astrology, although he told me he's not the astrology guy. But he's actually the father of astrology because he came to see that everything is connected, which means everything is relationship. Everything is relationship in the totality of the universe. Relativity. And he came to see that included every individual, that they had a position relative to the stars and the planets, which is true. You do. And he just began to, because he was such a mathematical genius, he began to understand how all this fit together. Did I say that right, Mr. Reimann? Is that a good enough introduction? Yes, thank you, Stephanie. So I'm pretty cut and dried in the way that I approach things. Because the way I approach things is, as Stephanie explained, in a very mathematical way. And so I'm known for certain theorems in the historical construct, which includes Riemann's theorem, which is a theory that has to do with the prime numbers, you see. And the prime numbers are very, very important because the prime numbers are the ones that are of primary importance to you right now. They are of primary importance to you right now because of the way they divide, you see, when they are multiplied. Because they have a particular relationship with the numbers 2 and 3. Because, as I explained to Stephanie in great detail, and most of you have not heard that, you add 2 to the prime numbers, gradually you see a very, very distinct pattern that emerges. And this pattern, as Stephanie understands, and hopefully some of you will begin to comprehend this because she's got a very quick mind and she understands these things. 2 has to do with duality. And 3 has to do with the Trinity. You understand because you have talked in here and many have talked to you about the idea of the duality and the Trinity, right? And so this is something that Stephanie understood from a young age. But she couldn't explain it to anyone because they couldn't comprehend it, what she was trying to tell them. And the importance of this fact is that you don't know who Stephanie is. Okay, so let me tell you. She is the one who is here to guide you without fear through the catastrophes that are near. Because she chose that role before she was born, you see. And God said, who will step forward and volunteer for this role? And she said, well, I can do it, God, I guess, if Gabriel goes with me. And Gabriel did go with her, and he has been with her entire life because he is the one that has helped her through many, many problems, you see. If you were to look at Stephanie's hand, you would see the guardian angel line. The guardian angel line is the one that flows around the base of the thumb beside the lifeline. Some of you have it also, and some don't. But it is the mark of the protection of the angels, you see. That they help you through periods of time when you might otherwise not be able to make it. They help you in times when you are suffering. And of course, Stephanie had to suffer a lot because of her life pattern. And so there were times when she just thought she couldn't get up again and do it. But her guardian angel was there. Gabriel was there. Now let me explain this to you so you understand this very clearly. Everyone has a soul family. Everyone is a member of a soul family. It is like saying that you are part of a grouping of cells that works together in a certain way. So that in primitive animals or microorganisms, there is a tendency for a lot of differentiation in the cell, their structure. But as it progresses, the cells tend to clump together into particular groupings, you might say. So you have the liver cells and you have the toenail cells, etc. You understand? Now, how many of you remember your 7th grade biology when they told you that the human body is created when the zygote, that is the fertilized egg, divides. And then it divides again and again and again to create the human body, right? And how many said to yourself, well, that's stupid. That means all you get is a blob of cells, right? Like the blob in that ancient movie that I knew about in my last life. And it just oozes down the street, right? And that's pretty much the blob of humanity. Because they all try to mimic each other, you see. They're not willing to be an original number. They're not willing to be a prime. They just want to spend their time mimicking the ones they admire. And so they say, well, I want to be the liver cell. For God's sake, I don't want to be a toenail cell. Ugh, might get a fungus. And so they all want to be the liver cell. So they all clump together and they become a blob. They become a blob because they cannot stand on their own 2 feet and hold their shape, you see. And so the prime numbers are the numbers that hold their shape. And they say, I will not be diminished by you. I will not be diminished by you. The only division possible when the prime numbers go on their march, you see, and they go 2 by 2, is that some of them can be divided by 2 and 3. In other words, 5. And some can divide it by 3. So what do we mean by this? 3 is the number of the Trinity. And as we have explained that to you, and Stephanie has understood this for a long, long time, the Trinity can be described in various ways. But the most profound way to describe it for most people is that it is love that is the singularity. It cannot know itself, you see, because it is a singularity that divided into the lover and the beloved. And therefore, it's a trinity because you have the lover, you have the beloved that are carved out of the one that is love. And so you have love that holds together the lover and the beloved. Can you follow this? This is variously described as the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, as the me, you, and reality, which is the typical way that people here in the circle talk about it, so that people can understand that there is you, there is God, and there is reality. Reality is the glue that holds you and God together, you see. Now, I talked with Stephanie quite a bit about some of the permutations of this theory and the teary way that I get when I think about it is that I have someone on earth to talk to about it. This is a miracle. And so, how does a miracle happen? Well, every day miracles happen, every day, but you become so immunized to what meets your eyes that you fail to see them, you see. You fail to isolate a blade of grass and say, I love you today. How beautiful you are, how perfect. One little blade of grass, how beautiful you are. How incredible you are, because you demonstrate to me the power of creation. You demonstrate to me the power of the cellular formation. You demonstrate to me the power of God energy, that you should not only be here, you little lovely blade of grass, but that you are multiplied from one end of the country to the next. You are here to make our life better, so we don't have to walk on all that rough dirt and in the mud. And how many of you stop and say, I love you today. I love you today, because you just play in the blob way. The blob is to be just like everybody else, you see. Watch the same movies, have the same pictures hanging on your wall, wear the same clothes, etc. You're just a blob until you're not. Until you say, I want to know what part I'm supposed to play. Now we're going to tell you about something that Steph and I talked about today. And maybe she can let you listen to that later. But some of the things that come up, I think, are very, very important to say. So in our soul group, which includes me and includes Steph, and includes many of those who were the Elohim back in the day, Steve and Thomas and others. And these are the ascended masters. These are the ascended masters, and they walk among you. And you don't even know who they are, because they are the prime numbers, you see. They are the ones who cannot be divided except through their understanding of multiplication and addition, because they multiply in trust on reality, and they add to their numbers 2 by 2, because all of life comes to you as a duality. We've talked about that. Steph and I talked about it yesterday. The complexities of understanding the duality. and how it works in your reality. And if you understand the duality, then you can understand the Trinity. Because you understand that this and that have to be hand in hand, and somebody has to give them the hand they hold. So love is the hand that connects the lover and the beloved, you see. And therefore, all of reality is a trust on the prime numbers. And so, in our soul family, there are many who have come back to earth time and time again to play parts that you remember. You know, for example, that Thomas was Thomas Jefferson, Thomas Edison, Paul, St. Paul, they call him. And Cat in the Hat, Steph, Cat in the Hat, because Thomas has played so many roles that it's not funny, of renown. However, the point I'm trying to make here is that these are prime numbers, you see, and everyone can access the prime numbers because they are models for your reality. So Steph said to me, she said, I don't really trust on the idea of ascended masters because I don't trust on a hierarchy. And so when people talk about ascended masters, it means nothing to me, nothing. And they say, well, how come you get to talk to Steve and Thomas and God and the angels and everything? She says, well, they're just the friends of mine. They're just friends of mine. And that's what happens when you're with your friends. They're just your friends. They're your soul family. And others may look on and say, well, how come you get to be in that group? And you say, well, they're just my friends. They're just my friends. And that's why she doesn't think of them as ascended masters. She just thinks of them as her friends. And they have mastered their ability to understand reality to such a degree that when God says, I need you to go back and play this role of being a dirtbag on earth, they say, okay, God, I'll do that role. And sometimes it can lay them low because they're not accustomed to hatred, you see. They're not accustomed to hatred. They're not accustomed to people who don't understand the lay of the land. They don't understand people like that. So they have a hard time sometimes on it. But they have a trust on God, you see, that God has them in hand and that all they have to do is stay connected to God. And so that it becomes their job, you see. Their job becomes to stay connected to God. When everybody else is saying, we got to go to this movie, we got to wear these clothes, we got to do this, they just say, whatever. I'll do what I need to get by. But my main concern is to understand how to take the pieces of the puzzle and put them back together again. And that is the study of mathematics, you see. How to take the pieces of the puzzle and put them back together again. And so that is my forte. And in my last lifetime, I had a part to play. My part to play was to be Steph's teacher when she was in junior high. I had her for 2 years. And as I said, she was the smartest kid I ever had in all the years of teaching. I never saw a kid that could hold a candle to her. And she didn't care. She didn't care because she didn't know the difference, you see. All she knew was that she could see things that others couldn't see for some reason. And she could understand things they couldn't understand for some reason. And so she just had to be an outsider, you see. But it happened to be a small school, and there was only, I don't know, 6 or 7 girls in that class, and they all played together. they all worked together, because when you only have a small group like that, they tend to find a way to work it out. So there was no in-group or out-group. There was just a small group of friends. And so she was happy there until she had to move, because her mother was not happy there. However, I'm here to tell you that I never saw a kid in all my years of teaching, and I taught all my life, all my working life, as smart as Stephanie. And most people would look at her and say, well, she's just a weird woman today, because they haven't got a clue. They haven't got a clue. And I hope you don't make that mistake, because she's got the ability to penetrate through the stories people tell to find the pearls, you see, to find the pearls. And so I'm going to tell you another story, so you understand this, because I don't think Stephanie intends for me to make this public, what we talked about earlier. But Stephanie has a long history as what we call a seer. That is to say, she is renowned for having been the one who could tell you what was going to happen. And she doesn't play that part today, because she doesn't want to affect the way that you play your own life. She just wants to let you be who you are, you see. But one of our numbers is David Cassidy, as you knew him in his last life. And he came to her one day and he said, you know, Steph, you came to me when you were dead, you see. When you were 20 years old, you came to me. And I was sitting with other people, and you came up and said, my name is Stephanie. And I said, who are you? And you said, it doesn't matter today, but I know your name, David. And I want you to know that you will see me again. And then she just kind of disappeared, because this happened when Stephanie took some pills and left her body when she was 20. And the song Stephanie, that the Partridge Family sang, is a homage to that woman, you see. And she always wondered, although she understood most of the lyrics, she always wondered why it said, your eyes can see life as it's meant to be. And she thought, well, shouldn't it be as it is? But David had it right when he sang those lyrics. He understood them in his heart. Although he might not have understood it consciously, the heart of man is a trust on God, you see. It is a trust on the God energy that flows through all of us. And so he was understanding that she saw life as it was meant to be. She saw life as it was meant to be, when all of humanity would work together in their own way and not just be a blob, a mindless blob that rolled down the street and left a slimy trail behind it. We were talking about the fact that she likes to be near nature, you see. Even if she lives in a city, she likes to have a nice yard or whatever where she can see the trees and the grass and the breeze. And that Stephanie finds the big cities with their high skyscrapers abhorrent. And so do I. So do I. Because you see, they're not alive. They're not alive. And the people who build those skyscrapers know that they won't survive the coming ages. And so in order for all those people to live in them, to survive, they have to keep reconstructing them, right? Can you see this? Not like a tree that will grow by itself, not like grass that will multiply. And so the people who live in those cities become the slaves to their structures, you see, just as the Anunnaki were enslaved to their spaceships. They were not free. And the people who live in those cities are not free. They are slaves. They are enslaved to the need to take care of their ship so that it doesn't disappear and they die, you see. And so they'll have to keep repairing those buildings, tearing them down, building new ones in their place. But they won't grow by themselves the way that nature has provided for you and me and all of the world, you see. And so the unnatural way that humanity lives, we're not saying that you can't be creative and can't create buildings, you see, that are beautiful and innovative. We're saying that when you become enslaved to your ship, you lose your humanity. And humanity has lost its humanity because it has become enslaved to its ship and it doesn't even know who it is anymore. It doesn't know who it is anymore. The ability of so many of those in our soul group to come through in this last generation, you could say, in order to play together in a way that would shine the light. So many of them came through in order to be the stars that you would come to know. And you would say, hey, they shine a little light on the world today. They shine a little light on love, on loneliness, and on the loss of our connection to God, energy. So others in our soul group who came in as singers include Johnny Cash, June Cash, John Denver, and John Lennon. And if you look at all of them, you will see what they sing about. Was it silly love songs? Really? David always wanted to be a rock star and not have to sing those silly love songs. But it's those silly love songs that he came to see that helped a whole generation of children to begin to trust on family, on love, and on the American dream. Because the American dream is not that we pave over the farm, you see. The American dream is that we be free from religious control, from a monarchy, from a dictatorship, and from a people who have lost their humanity. And the American dream has not failed because the American dream is here, you see. I've talked about some in the soul family, and I haven't talked about others that were also in the same soul family, and that's why they gathered together once upon a time. Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, George Washington, and a host of others of lesser names, Thomas Paine for sure. And they also are part of the same soul family. Whether they came into this earth vibration initially as the Elohim, as the Anunnaki, or as the kindred, they found their connection through history. They found their connection with each other that said, we are family, we are family. I understand what you're trying to say. I understand who you are. And I'm willing to play with you until the day when we can figure out how to help God, to help humanity, to restore their divinity. Now, I want to say there are a lot of parts in play today. There are a lot of parts in play today. And so you're aware of the climate change, and also those in this group are aware of the ones who say that there's something going on deep under the surface of the earth that is going to cause a lot of change for humanity. There's one thing that we talked about that you don't know about because it hasn't been addressed in this group before, and that is the pole reversals. Magnetic fields are going to reverse. So that south will become north and north will become south, and it will be devastating. It will be the final blow to humanity, you see, because only a few will be able to survive that catastrophe. And those are the ones who have a sense of direction, you see, because all of humanity that is not capable of being self-directed will lose their sense of direction. And the pole reversal doesn't happen just in a moment, you see. Once it hits its height and it's ready to flip, it will be fairly rapid and very devastating. But it does happen from time to time, and it happens in the hearts of humanity. Today, a lot of people have lost their direction, and they think good is bad, and they think right is wrong. And they are simply lost, you see. They are lost because the magnetic poles that direct the human trust on reality have flipped, you see. They have flipped. And the ones who were meek will inherit the earth. The meek will inherit the earth because the prophecies are coming true. The prophecies are coming true for you. You're not going to have a bunch of ascended masters that descend on the earth to save you. You're not going to have aliens that come to save you. You're going to have people like Stephanie, who others mock, and who her neighbors would call the crazy lady who lives down the street. She's out in her yard picking out those weeds or whatever all the time. And she doesn't do what we do. She doesn't go to her lake house on the weekend and sit there. She doesn't sit in front of the TV all evening, you see. We don't know what she's going on with her, but she's not like us. She's not like us. And that's true. She's not like them. And so look around you at the people around you and see who's in this group today. See who's here today. And the reason they're here today is because something in them said, hey, people are losing their way. People are losing their way. And I don't want to be one of them. I don't want to be one of them. I don't want to be the one that is not here to be free, to live as God intended us to live. God intended us to live from the heart, you see, and not from the TV. God intended us to live in trust on reality and trust on the relativity of all of creation, that you only exist because other parts of God energy exist. And if God can take one particular cell and allow it to become you, your physical form, then know that God can take humanity from its initial seed into a reality of love, peace, and harmony. If God can take that one fertilized cell and say, I want you to trust on me to follow the pattern that I give you. And when it's time for you to become a toenail cell, that's what you'll do. When it's time for you to become an eye cell, that's what you will do. You will do it on a schedule that I give to you. Otherwise, you'll be in the wrong place, you see. If you don't listen to me, you're going to have that eye cell stuck in your belly button. And then what are you going to do? Is that where you're going to find your friends? Is that where you're going to find the other cells that look like you? Is that where you're going to know what to do? And the truth is that each one of you has a path. And each one of you made an agreement with God before you were born. And you said, God, if you need a volunteer to be there, to help with the change that's coming to Earth, so that the Earth can be reseeded with those who understand how to live in a natural way, that there is a language of patterns, you see. There are patterns that govern all of your reality. But those patterns express themselves in a unique way. And so every blade of grass is a little bit different, you see, than its neighbor. And it may not be a difference that you can see, but you can see the difference in your own family. And you can see that everybody has a part to play. And if they choose not to play their part, if they can't find the directions in their heart, because that's where they are lodged, the directions for your journey are in your heart. That's where the pattern is that you must follow if you would be happy. And so, as Paige said, she found a happy heart, literally, because she began to start to say, this doesn't feel like the way I'm supposed to feel, because I know what I'm supposed to feel. I already know how I'm supposed to feel. How do you know that? How do you know how you're supposed to feel? You know it because it's part of the pattern that God gave to you when he said, let there be you. Let there be you. He said, this is my love for you that created you. And you will know when you're doing what I ask you to, when you feel that connection to me, when you feel the love, you see. And so now each one of you is on track. You're exactly on track of where you need to be. It is true that only 3 have been working on the concrete plans for the community because they chose to. You see, they said, this is part of my pattern. I need to be in this position at this time because I'm an eye cell or a toenail cell or whatever it is. I need to be right here because this is where I belong. Would you not agree, Paige and Amy, that you had that feeling? This is where I belong.
I agree.
And so it doesn't necessarily matter what other people do because they trust. And I trust. And Steph trusts that every one of you will do what you need to do. And the moment you say, hey, this is where I need to depart from the blob you see, this is where I need to stand up and say, this is who I am and this is where I belong. This is who I am and this is where I belong. And then you will be in exactly the right position to be a part of a community of people that will say, hey, we trusted on God today. We trusted on God to guide us. We didn't trust on the TV. We didn't trust on the guidance counselor at the college, you see. They told us we had to be a doctor or a nurse or whatever profession would bring us in the most money. We didn't trust on money at all, you see. We trusted on God's energy. We trusted on God energy because that is the true money of the universe. It is the ability to move, you see. That dollar bill had to move 12 times to be worth $12, you see. But there had to be something there to buy with that dollar. And so when you prepare, you are saying, God, I trust that if I build it, they will come. If I build it, they will come. If you trust on what you hear and not on what you fear, it will happen. You will just say, God, I need to be right here, right now, in this moment, in this way. And God will say, thank you, dear, because if you follow your heart, that's all I ask. That's all I ask. Because not everybody needs to be the I self, and everybody needs to be the heart self. And not everybody needs to be the one who can let me talk to you this way. Not everyone needs to be Stephanie. Not everyone needs to be Paige. Not everyone needs to be Winnie or Amy or anyone in this group. Every one of you needs to be you. Because if you're not you, who's going to play your part? Who's going to play your part in the totality of humanity? Because the totality of humanity, you see, must come back into alignment with God energy. I am a mathematician. I am also an astronomer. And I understand the relationship, you see. I understand the relationship and all the connections that can be made. I'm not saying I know it all. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that I look for patterns in everything. And there is a pattern going on the earth today. And there is going to be a time when those who gather together and seed the new humanity will say, thank God we played this way. Thank God we said to God, let me be the one that will play this part, God. When I go to earth, it might be a little rough and I might get lost. But if you can ring the bell in my heart when I get a start on understanding what it's like to have a happy heart, then I will know which way I need to go, because I'll just ask my heart. And my heart will say, let go, honey, let go. And just go with the wind. Throw yourself on the wind and let it set you down so gently, exactly where you need to be. Because God is the wind, you see. Throw yourself into the arms of God, and God will set you down where He wants you to be. Because God, you see, is the one who yearns for His children to return to Him and to say, God, I'm here today. I'm committed. I'm committed. I've got the horse in front of the cart. I'm committed for whatever purpose I agreed to before I came to earth. And I may not know what that purpose is, but that's okay, because you will guide me. I know you will guide me, because the horse knows the way home, you see. And if you don't want the horse to go home, if you want it to go somewhere else, you have to tell the horse. You have to say, horse, I'd like to go over there, or I'd like to go here and explore it. And the horse will say, well, I can take you that way, but we need to go around the swamp, you see. And so it might look like we're going in the opposite direction, but we're not. Because I can take you where you want to be, because I am part of your reality. And so let God energy carry you to where you need to be. And don't worry about whether you thought you needed to be here or there, and God sets you down anywhere else, because God knows where you need to be. God already knows what you agreed to do. God already knows who you are. God already says, hey, you don't have to be an ascended master, you see. Others may look at you and say, well, how did you know that today? How can you do that today? And you just say, because I'm me, and this is my part to play. I'm me, and this is my part to play. And it's not because I'm an ascended master. It's not because I'm better than you. It's only because I asked God to let me help him, to help me, to help humanity, to live in peace and harmony. Thank you for listening to me. My name is Bernhard Reimann, and I wrote the Book of Love in my efforts to explain it, you see, because mathematics is the language of reality, and love is the energy that will set you free.